Warhammer 40,000 is accidentally the most successful horror franchise in gaming history. Every faction, every army, every choice hides something so fundamentally broken that 40 years later we're still discovering new reasons to be disturbed. That's why today I'm breaking down every major faction in Warhammer 40k and exactly why each one is more terrifying than you think. Starting with the supposed good guys who are anything but, the Imperium. The Imperium of Man is not the hero faction. Let me be clear about that up front. This is a galaxy-spanning theocratic fascist state built on ignorance, enforced faith, and industrial-scale human sacrifice. And it genuinely might be humanity's only option for survival. Here's the thing. The entire Imperium revolves around a corpse. The Emperor of Mankind has been dead for 10,000 years. Technically, he sits entombed on a machine called the Golden Throne that's almost 4 miles long, kept barely alive as both life support and the power source for the only navigation beacon that makes faster than light travel possible. Without him, humanity cannot travel between stars. The Imperium collapses instantly. But here's where it gets dark. 1,000 psychers are sacrificed every single day to keep the throne running. Not volunteers, not criminals, just psychers rounded up from across the galaxy and fed into a machine. The Adeptus Astronomica processes 10,000 every 10 days like clockwork, and the Golden Throne is failing. Nobody knows how to fix it because the Emperor himself built it and he can't exactly explain anymore. The Sisters of Silence can see through psychic illusions. When they look at the Emperor without that distortion, they see a man with his mouth open in a silent scream. Every human faction in the Imperium demonstrates this philosophy in different ways. The Astra Militarum throws trillions of conscripts at enemies with the tactical doctrine of infinite bodies plus artillery. The Death Corps of Krieg are so obsessed with atoning for their planet's ancient rebellion that commissars are assigned not to shoot cowards but to restrain their suicidal charges. The Adeptus Mechanicus treats all technology as sacred mystery, which sounds fine until you learn that servitors are lobotomized humans with their brains replaced by machinery. Some were criminals, most were just inconvenient. And these are the factions defending humanity. But if you think baseline humans with laser guns are disturbing, wait until you hear what they do to children to create Space Marines. Space Marines. Space Marines are 8-foot tall superhuman warrior monks weighing 500 kilograms in power armor. They're the poster boys of Warhammer 40k. They're also one of the most disturbing factions in the entire setting once you understand how they're made. Recruits are children aged 10 to 14. That's the window. Any older and the genetic modifications kill them. These kids are subjected to 19 additional organ implants over years of invasive surgery. A second heart, acid spit glands, a third lung, an organ that lets them eat brains and absorb memories. The progenoid glands that will create the next generation of gene seed are implanted in their throat and chest. Many recruits die during the process. The survivors lose most of their humanity. They cannot reproduce, they rarely sleep. They know only war. And here's the thing that makes it worse. They're conditioned to love it. Each Space Marine chapter carries the genetic legacy of one of the original 20 Primarchs, the Emperor's demigod sons created during the Great Crusade. After the Horus Heresy, when half the legions turned traitor, the survivors were broken into 1,000 Marine chapters to prevent any single commander from wielding too much power. Every chapter inherited not just their Primarch's genetics, but their flaws. The Blood Angels are cursed by the Black Rage and Red Thirst. Genetic defects from their Primarch Sanguinius cause berserker fury and blood-drinking urges. They're noble Renaissance artists who paint masterpieces between campaigns, fully aware they're all slowly turning into vampiric monsters. The Dark Angels obsessively hunt the fallen, members of their own legion who turned traitor 10,000 years ago. Their inner circles maintain terrible secrets the wider Imperium must never learn. They have literally abandoned Imperial allies mid-battle when a fallen was detected nearby. The Black Templars are perpetual crusaders who may secretly number in the tens of thousands, violating the Codex Astartes limit. They consider all psychic power heretical, including the librarians other chapters use. The Space Wolves are Viking-themed berserkers who call the Emperor the Allfather and whose gene seed causes literal physical mutations into wolf hybrid forms. The Salamanders are the rare chapter that actually prioritizes protecting civilians over tactical efficiency. And as of 10th edition, the newer Primaris Marines have nearly replaced the original Firstborn entirely. These taller, stronger, better warriors were created in secret over 10,000 years by one man. Some have already fallen to chaos, which was previously thought impossible for Primaris, but at least Space Marines chose to serve in some capacity. The Adeptus Sororitas had no choice at all. The Emperor's Zealots. The Adeptus Sororitas are power-armored warrior nuns whose faith in the Emperor manifests as literal battlefield miracles, and they are not genetically enhanced. They're flesh and blood humans empowered purely by belief. Living Saint Celestine can resurrect from death repeatedly through apparent divine intervention. Sisters have walked through fire unharmed, survived wounds that should kill instantly, instantly and manifested holy light that burns heretics. Their origin is a legal loophole. After a decree forbade the ecclesiarchy from maintaining men under arms, they recruited an all-female fighting force. Problem solved. But here's where the sisters get disturbing. Penitent engines are combat walkers with heretics hardwired to the front, fully exposed to enemy fire. A parasitic pain device lodged in their brain delivers artificial pain signals 2 orders of magnitude higher than physical infliction can achieve. The pilot feels agony beyond human comprehension for hours. Only death in battle earns forgiveness. Sisters consider it their sacred duty to witness. And if you think that's the peak of the Imperium's warrior elite, you haven't met the Custodes. The Adeptus Custodes are the Emperor's personal bodyguard, individually crafted golden demigods who make space marines look like conscripts. Each custodian is a unique masterwork. Where marines are mass-produced from gene seed, custodes are individually engineered. They wear golden auramite armor and wield guardian spears too heavy for several men to lift. They possess an almost supernatural warding where bolts turn aside and psychic powers flicker to nothing. They fight in purposeful silence. No battle cry at all. The elite inner circle of 300 companions who guard the Golden Throne have armor blackened from prolonged exposure to the Emperor's psychic energies. After 10,000 years of standing vigil in morning black, Guilliman's return prompted them to deploy into the wider galaxy for the first time in recorded history. Then there are the Imperial Knights, noble families piloting 40-foot war machines through the Throne Mechanicum, a neural interface that imprints every previous pilot's personality as data goes. More than a tenth of new pilots are driven mad or die during their first link. Dead pilots' ghosts have seized control autonomously. And coordinating all of this, the Inquisition, a secret organization with absolute authority over everyone. An Inquisitor can commandeer armies, condemn worlds to a sermonatus, and execute anyone. The Officio Assassinorum fields 4 temples. Vindicare snipers killing from impossible distances. Kalidas shapeshifters using a drug that lets them impersonate anyone including aliens. Eversor berserkers whose bodies explode upon death. And Colexis anti-psychers whose presence causes existential dread in all living things. These are humanity's defenders. Noble, zealous, horrifying. But if you think the Imperium is dark, wait until you meet the forces they're fighting. Because Chaos doesn't just want to kill you. Chaos wants you to join willingly. The Chaos? Gods. Chaos is not simply evil. Chaos is the dark reflection of every mortal emotion given form in an alternate dimension called the warp. Every act of violence, every scheme, every moment of despair feeds 4 entities that are simultaneously gods and cosmic forces. And here's what makes them truly terrifying. They offer exactly what people want most. Khorne is the blood god, the oldest and most powerful. He's empowered every single time anything kills in anger anywhere in the galaxy. His domain is war, rage, and martial honor. He despises sorcery and cowardice. His realm features rivers of boiling blood and the Skull Throne, a mountain of skulls from every sentient species. His catchphrase is blood for the blood god, skulls for the Skull Throne. He means it literally. The world eaters serve him. Their Primarch Angron was implanted with cranial devices called butcher's nails that make them physically incapable of feeling anything except rage and pain. They were warrior scholars before the nails destroyed everything. Now they butcher entire worlds in mindless fury, and they cannot stop even if they wanted to. Nurgle is the plague god, and he presents the setting's most disturbing paradox. He's genuinely affectionate. Followers call him Papa Nurgle, or grandfather. He cherishes his children and shields them from pain. The catch is, you become an eternal vessel of rot. His death guard are plague marines, eternally rotting, yet eternally alive. Armor fused to diseased flesh, immune to all pain. Many turn to Nurgle from desperation, seeking relief from incurable plague. He grants it. You just stop caring that you're decomposing. Tzeentch is the changer of ways, the greatest sorcerer in existence, architect of plots within plots. But he can never achieve his goals because his goal is the scheming itself. The Thousand Sons are his most tragic servants. Chief Librarian Ahriman casts a spell to cure his brother's mutations, but instead turned every non-psyker into dust inside their armor. Rubric Marines are suits of power armor filled with ash, animated by sorcery. When their sorcerer dies, they simply stop and stand motionless forever. Slaanesh is the youngest god, is born when the ancient Eldari civilization collapsed into such complete depravity that their collective psychic excess birthed a new god in an instant. The birth scream killed billions, devoured most of the Eldari pantheon, and tore open a 20,000 light-year wound in reality called the Eye of Terror. Slaanesh's domain isn't just carnal excess but perfection in all things. The singer seeking the perfect song, the warrior seeking flawless technique. Each requires ever greater extremes. The Emperor's children serve Slaanesh with sonic weaponry that weaponizes sound itself. Their champion, Lucius the Eternal, is reborn from the flesh of anyone who kills him and feels even a moment of satisfaction. Their body warps and Lucius emerges, their screaming face embedded forever in his armor. As of 2025, Emperor's Children received their own standalone codex with the new Fulgrim Demon Primarch model, a four-armed serpentine nightmare. But if the gods are terrifying, their mortal followers are worse, because they're still human enough to know exactly what they're doing. Traitor legends. 9 of the original 18 Space Marine legions betrayed the Emperor during the Horus Heresy. After the war, they fled into the Eye of Terror, where temporal instability means many of the same Marines from 10,000 years ago still fight today. Veterans who personally fought the Emperor are still alive, still waging war. Abaddon the Despoiler is their supreme commander. He wields the demon sword Drashnian and the Talon of Horus. He launched 13 Black Crusades from the Eye of Terror, each appearing to fail but secretly achieving strategic objectives. The 13th culminated in destroying Cadia and splitting the galaxy in half with the Great Rift. Abaddon uses chaos rather than being enslaved by it. He despises the gods themselves while wielding all their power. He is the galaxy's single most successful warlord by body count. But here's where Chaos Space Marines get truly disturbing. They're not mindless. They remember who they were. The Death Guard were once the Dusk Raiders, loyal and pragmatic. The Thousand Sons were scholar warriors seeking knowledge. The Emperor's Children were perfectionists pursuing excellence in all things. They chose this. Every single act of horror is committed by someone who was once humanity's greatest defender. And then there are the demons. Chaos. Demons are entities of pure warp energy, psychic emotion given physical form. They cannot truly be killed. Destroying the body merely returns them to the warp for reconstitution. Demonic incursions require weakened reality barriers. Warp storms, exploding psyker minds, blood rituals, or simply massive mortal suffering weakening the veil between dimensions. They can corrupt entire planets into demon worlds not bound by physics but by the whim of their rulers. One demon world, Oliensis, takes the form of a morbidly obese man curled in fetal position. Another is a living mouth. Geography on demon worlds is a suggestion. Khorne's bloodthirsters are greater demons standing 3 stories tall while wielding axes that can cut through reality itself. Skarbrand once tried to kill Khorne and was punished by having his wings ripped off and being hurled through the warp for eternity, cursed to feel nothing but rage. He can never know peace again. Nurgle's great unclean ones are walking plague factories who genuinely love their victims. They sing while spreading disease. The Eldari goddess Isha is imprisoned in Nurgle's garden in a cage, used as a test subject for new diseases. She cures herself each time and whispers the cures to mortals when Nurgle isn't looking. Tzeentch's Lords of Change know the pace and future of all things but are bound by paradox. They could win instantly but cannot because victory would end the scheming, which is the point. Slaanesh's Keepers of Secrets embody every excess and temptation. They don't kill you, they corrupt you into wanting to stay. A rising power worth noting is Vashdor the Archophane, a demon smith and possible 5th chaos entity who builds weapons and demon engines. He allied with Abaddon during the Arcs of Eomen campaign and nearly ascended to godhood. But if chaos offers power through corruption, the Eldari understand corruption on a level no other species can match, because they created a chaos god by accident. The Eldari kindreds. The Eldari were once the galaxy's greatest civilization, psychically gifted, technologically superior, masters of the webway, allowing instantaneous travel between stars. Then they became so decadent, so consumed by excess, that their collective psychic depravity birthed a new chaos god in an instant. Slaanesh's birth killed billions. The psychic scream devoured most of the Eldari pantheon. It tore open the Eye of Terror, a 20,000 light-year wound in reality, and Slaanesh hungers eternally for every Eldari soul. When they die, she who thirsts is waiting. Every faction of their splintered race represents a different response to the same existential terror. The Craftworld Eldari are refugees aboard continent-sized ships. They survive through the path system, rigid behavioral discipline preventing the emotional excess that birthed Slaanesh. Each Eldari pursues a single path until mastery, then moves on. Warrior, seer, artisan. Those consumed by the path of the warrior become exarchs, revered and pitied, unable to ever leave. They're trapped in their own excellence. Every Eldari wears a spirit stone that captures their soul at death, preventing Slaanesh from devouring it. These stones are placed in the Craftworld's Infinity Circuit, a psychic network where all ancestors reside as group consciousness. Losing a Craftworld means losing not just a home, but every ancestral soul to eternal torment. Major Craftworlds each have distinct identities. Althway sits near the Eye of Terror under constant chaos threat, home to legendary Farseer Eldred Althrin. Yandon was devastated by Tyranids and now fights predominantly with Wraith constructs, the disturbed dead piloting war machines to defend the living. Bilton maintains a most martial culture, dedicated to reconquering restoring their lost empire. Despite their catastrophic fall, the Ealdari remain supremely arrogant. They call humans Mon Keeg, essentially monkey. And then there are the Drukhari, arguably the most evil faction in the entire setting. The Drukhari are unrepentant Ealdari who continued their depraved ways within Camarag, a massive interdimensional city in the Webway lit by stolen dying stars. Unlike their Craftworld kin, they have no spirit stones. They discovered that absorbing others' pain and suffering rejuvenates them and delays Slaanesh's soul drain. Without regular torture, they physically wither and die. Their weapons are designed to maim and incapacitate rather than kill. They want captives alive. 3 pillars define their society. Cabals are pirate military aristocracies. Witch cults are gladiatorial blood sport arenas. And Homunculi covens are flesh sculptors and master torturers who can keep victims alive through centuries of continuous agony. Some captives are transformed into living furniture. The Homunculus Urian Rakarth keeps an entire Tyranid-infested planet captive in Camarag's orbit for experiments. Their supreme overlord, Asdrubal Vecht, was born a slave and claims to have witnessed the fall firsthand, making him one of the oldest living beings in the galaxy. Games Workshop's official position is that immediate death is the preferable outcome when the Drukhari attack. The Harlequins follow Tegarok the Laughing God, the only Eldari deity to escape Slaanish by hiding in the Webway. They see no distinction between art and war and guard the Black Library, the greatest repository of knowledge about chaos. Their solitaires pledge their souls to Slaanish to play the Dark Prince in performances. Other Eldari literally cross the street to avoid them. The Inari represent the first real hope in 10,000 years, a movement following Enid, the god of the dead, who could potentially destroy Slaanish. Led by the prophet Yvraine, they need 5 ancient Kronzords to awaken Aeneid. They have 4. The 5th is in Slaanish's palace in the warp. But if the Eldari's horror is existential, the galaxy's great alien threats operate on a scale that makes individual suffering irrelevant. The great threats. Orcs are war-loving fungal organisms engineered by the ancient Old Ones as bioweapons millions of years ago. Living weapons that outlive their creators. They reproduce through spore dispersal, photosynthesize through green blood, and can survive dismemberment. You can never truly rid a planet of orcs. Decades after apparent defeat, new feral tribes emerge from hidden spores. Their most extraordinary trait is the Weya Gestalt psychic field. All orcs generate collective psychic energy that warps reality to match their beliefs. Red vehicles are measurably faster because orcs believe red ones go faster. Imperial tech priests confirm that orc weapons often don't function unless wielded by an orc. Entire orc warships have operated in the void with no functional engines because the orcs believe they worked. This makes them simultaneously comic relief and an existential threat. Their collective belief is arguably one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy. 6 clans define orc culture: speed-obsessed evil sons, brutish goths, wealthy bad moons, sneaky blood axes, thieving death skulls, and traditionalist snakebites. Their greatest warlord, Gazgul Mag Uruk-Thraka, was shot in the head, rebuilt with adamantium by a mad dog, received visions from the orc gods Gork and Mork, was later decapitated by a space wolf after 10 days of continuous combat, and was resurrected. He once headbutted a warp rift close after defeating a bloodthirster and told the chaos gods to send something bigger next time. At least orcs have personality. Tyranids are something worse, an extragalactic race of bioengineered organisms whose sole purpose is consuming all organic life. Every Tyranid shares one collective consciousness, the hive mind, so staggeringly complex it either kills or drives insane any psyker who touches it. Approaching hive fleets generate a shadow in the warp that blocks all communication and warp travel, isolating worlds before the first organism arrives. Their consumption process is methodical horror. Vanguard organisms infiltrate and assess. Warrior bioforms overwhelm defenders. Capillary towers grow from surface to orbit, pumping biomass upward. Digestion pools dissolve everything: buildings, soil, water, people. Consumed worlds are left as barren. Airless rocks stripped of every molecule of organic matter. Every weapon they carry is grown, not built. Devourers fire flesh-boring maggots incubated in the creature's gullet. Beovores launch living spore mines. Carnifexes are living siege engines bred for a single battle and discarded if they survive. The popular fan theory, deliberately left ambiguous by Games Workshop, suggests the Tyranids may be refugees, not invaders, fleeing something even worse in the intergalactic void. Known hive fleets may be merely the first tendrils of something incomprehensibly larger. The 4th Tyrannic War against Hive Fleet Leviathan is the central narrative of 10th edition and represents the largest Tyranid invasion ever encountered, and the most insidious threat, Genestealer cults. A single Genestealer stows away on a ship, reaches an imperial world, and begins infecting individuals. Over 4 generations, hybrids progress progressed from grotesque first generation hidden underground to completely human-looking fourth generation infiltrating government and military. A fully mature cult can number in the billions across multiple worlds. When strong enough, they launch a coordinated uprising, the Day of Ascension. The devastating irony is the uprising powers a psychic beacon guiding a Tyranid hive fleet to the planet. When the Tyranids arrive, they consume everything, including the cultists who worship them. These cultists genuinely love each other as family. They believe they're being saved by star children. They are being eaten. But if Tyranids represent hunger, the Necrons represent something colder. The price of immortality, the ancient and the naive. The Necrons are the oldest civilization in the galaxy, predating the Eldari by millions of years. The Necrontyr were a mortal species cursed with short, painful lives. Their envy of immortals led them to the Citan, star gods, who promised eternal life through biotransference. The entire species marched into biofurnaces, where their flesh was replaced by living metal, while the Citan devoured every soul. When the silent King Sarek emerged, he felt stronger but experienced a terrible emptiness gnawing at his mind. He realized the Citan had consumed the soul of every Necrontyr. Even children were transferred into adult bodies and had their minds wiped of all sentience. Sarek turned on the Citan, shattering them into Citan shards now used as cage weapons on the battlefield. He then ordered the entire race into 60 million years of hibernation. Their technology is staggering. Gauss weapons disassemble matter atom by atom. Resurrection protocols rebuild destroyed warriors mid-battle. Necrodermis self-repairs any damage. The horror standout is the flayed ones, Necrons afflicted by a mimetic curse that drives them to butcher living creatures and drape themselves in stolen skin and flesh, trying to eat victims despite having no digestive systems. They are possibly craving a return to bodies of flesh and bone they can never have again. Fan favorite Trazen the Infinite collects artifacts from across the galaxy. His museum allegedly contains a preserved Primarch. He unleashed his entire collection as weapons during the fall of Cadia before teleporting away when the planet died. In current lore, the Silent King's Pariah Nexus, vast arrays of pylons suppressing all warp activity, is central to 10th edition's narrative. Sarek and Imhotep the Stormlord are in civil war over the Necrons' future direction. Some dynasties want to reverse biotransference and reclaim flesh. Others embrace their immortal forms. And then there are the Tau, the youngest spacefaring species, a tiny empire on the galaxy's eastern fringe, guided by the greater good, a philosophy of cooperation and progress. They compensate for physical weakness with the finest range warfare technology in the galaxy. There's crisis battlesuits, riptides, storm surges. Allied species include the Kroot, carnivorous aliens who evolve by consuming enemies. The dark underbelly centers on the ethereal caste, mysterious rulers who appeared suddenly during the Tau's darkest hour and whose control is absolute and unexplained. An ethereal could tell a Tau to die, and that Tau would comply instantly. The highest ethereal, Unva, is secretly already dead, replaced by a holographic projection. During the Fourth Sphere expansion, a Tau fleet lost in the warp encountered something claiming to be a warp entity embodying the greater good, a possible nascent Tau chaos god. Commander Farsight is these Tau's greatest warrior who discovered the ethereals were hiding the universe's true horrors. He wields the Dawn Blade, an ancient artifact that steals the remaining lifespan of anyone it kills and adds it to the wielder's own. Farsight has lived over 3 centuries, far beyond normal Tau lifespan, and doesn't fully understand why. Finally, the Leagues of Votan, clone race descendants of pre-imperial human miners who colonized the galactic core. Their civilization revolves around ancestor cores, ancient AIs of staggering power containing all accumulated knowledge. The crisis is these AIs are becoming senescent and erratic, overwhelmed by millennia of accumulated data. What once took moments to answer now takes decades. Their slowly degrading gods are a ticking time bomb. These are the galaxy's factions. Every single one is hiding something that makes them either monsters or victims, or usually both. But if you think any of them are winning, you haven't been paying attention to what's happening right now. The galaxy in flames. The defining event of modern Warhammer 40k is the Great Rift, the Cicatrix Maledictum, a galaxy-spanning warp storm triggered by Cadia's destruction that literally split the Milky Way in two. The northern half, Imperium Nihilus, is cut off from the Emperor's light. The Astronomicon doesn't reach. Warp travel is nearly impossible. Entire sectors have gone dark. Abaddon the Despoiler achieved what 10,000 years of Black Crusades were building toward. Cadia, the fortress world that guarded the Eye of Terror for millennia, was destroyed when Abaddon crashed a Blackstone fortress into it. The planet broke. But the Cadian regiment still standing on the surface transmitted one final message. Cadia stands. It became a rallying cry across the Imperium even as the world shattered. The Great Rift's opening allowed Chaos fleets to pour into real space on a scale never seen before. Demon worlds manifested in previously mostly stable sectors. Forge worlds fell. Chapter homeworlds burned. The Imperium was hours from total collapse. Then Rabat Guilliman woke up. The Primarch of the Ultramarines, dead for 10,000 years, was resurrected through Ealdari intervention using the power of Iniad. He took one look at the Imperium he helped build and was horrified. The bureaucracy, the superstition, the ecclesiarchy worshipped his father as a god when the Emperor explicitly rejected religion. Guilliman called the Imperium a rotting corpse, surviving in spite and the suffering of trillions. Then he got to work. The Indomitus Crusade launched with new Primaris Marines created in secret by Archmagos Belisarius Cawl over 10,000 years. Entire chapters were reinforced or rebuilt from nothing. Guilliman personally led Crusade fleets across Imperium Nihilus, re-establishing contact with lost worlds and destroying Chaos strongholds. He reached Terra, spoke with the Emperor, and emerged disturbed. He heard multiple beings speaking simultaneously. He stopped thinking of the Emperor as his father, and then a second Primarch returned. Lion L. Johnson of the Dark Angels emerged from the warp after 10,000 years missing. The Lion and Guilliman's reunion was not warm. Two demigods with fundamentally different philosophies now leading the Imperium's military response. But the Imperium is emphatically not winning. The fourth tyrannic war against High Fleet Leviathan rages as the central narrative of 10th edition. This is the largest Tyranid invasion ever encountered. Multiple tendrils striking simultaneously across the entire galaxy. Baal, homeworld of the Blood Angels, nearly fell. Only the Great Rifts opening and the resulting demon invasion interrupting the Tyranids saved it. The Tyranids and demons are now fighting each other while the Imperium bleeds from both. The Necron's Pariah Nexus expands. The Silent King Sarek deploys vast arrays of pylons suppressing all warp activity across entire sectors. No psychic powers, no demons, no warp travel, no Astronomicon. For the Imperium, this is nearly as devastating as Chaos itself. Chaos grows stronger. The Emperor's children received a full army launch with a plastic Fulgrim Demon Primarch model in 2025. Slaanesh forces mobilize on a scale not seen since the Horus Heresy. Orcs gather under God's Call for the largest Wa'ega in recorded history. The Tau expanded despite Imperial resistance. The Leagues of Votan emerge as a new threat with technology the Mechanicus cannot explain. Every faction is fighting every other faction while the galaxy burns. There are no good guys, there is no hope of victory. There is only war, and that's exactly the point. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.